Hi everyone! Today's math lesson is going to be on describing plane shapes, and this is the start of our unit on geometry. So first, when you get this Google slide shared with you, I want you all to come up here and to click on where it says Lesson 12.1 and put your name, just so that we know whose Google slide is whose. And then another part you can do this is here where it says my name, you can change that to say your name. So to start off, we're going to be doing this do now, and it says take a few minutes to brainstorm and describe this shape in as much detail as possible. So we're talking about this shape right here. So in order to answer this, you're going to click, highlight, and then you can type in your answer, whatever it may be. So this is only supposed to be a quick little activity just before we get the lesson started. It could take at most 5 minutes, and then once you're done, you can go on with the lesson. So we have some vocabulary words in this lesson. So the first word is point. Now a point is an exact position or location. So as we see, this red little dot is a point. That means that is the exact position we are talking about on that line. Next, we have line. Now this is a straight path. It continues in both directions and does not end. So our clues are that these arrows mean that this line goes forever in both directions. Next, we have endpoints. These are points that are used to show segments of a line. Now these little red dots are the endpoints. Next, we have line segment. This is a straight line. It's a part of a line and it has two endpoints. So these little dots are the endpoints like we saw over here. Lastly, we have array, which is straight, it's part of a line, it has one endpoint, and it continues forever in one direction. So as we see, this is the one endpoint, and this arrow shows us that it continues forever in one direction. Next, we're going to be watching this Brain Pop video that just summarizes some of the vocab words.
Connect the points to draw a picture. What do you think it'll be, Moby? What are points and lines? A point is an exact position or location. This picture has different points you connect together. The symbol for a point is a dot. Points remind me of stars in the sky. We can label points with letters. To finish this picture, you connect point A to point B. Then connect point B to point C, and point C to point D, and so on. A line is made up of points that are right next to each other. A line continues in both directions with no end. The arrowheads at each end show that the line goes on forever. Lines can be horizontal and go from one side to another. They can be vertical and go up and down. They can also be diagonal. What are line segments and rays? A line segment is part of a line. Each end of a line segment has an endpoint. A line segment does not continue forever. A ray is also part of a line. One end has an endpoint, but the other end continues forever. Line segments and rays can be horizontal, vertical, or diagonal, just like lines.
So that was a great video to just sum up all the different terms that we are going to be seeing in this lesson. So now here's a few questions that you can just think about. You don't have to answer them if you don't want to, but just to think about. So look at the picture of a line. What do the arrows mean? So if you look at this, what do these arrows mean? How are a line segment and line alike? How are they different? So they're talking about this and that. And why does array only have one arrow? So what does this one arrow mean on this ray? Next, we're going to be getting into a little bit more detail of what plane shapes are. So a plane shape is a shape on a flat surface. It is formed by points that make curved paths, line segments, or both. Plane shapes have length and width but no thickness, so they are also called two-dimensional shapes. So as we see on here, it has a length and a width. They could be opened or closed. A closed shape starts and ends at the same point. An open shape does not start and end at the same point. On this slide, you're going to be filling in the blank. So it says some plane shapes are made by connecting line segments at their endpoints. One example is a square. Describe a square using math words. So a square has blank line segments. The line segments meet at their blank. So think, how many line segments and endpoints does a square have? Looking at this picture, if you get confused on what a line segment is, you can go back to the vocabulary, see, okay, this is what a line segment is, come back here, and you may be able to answer the question now. So to answer, you're going to double click on the line, and then type your answer. So for this line and for also this line over here. Once you finish with that, you can move on to the next slide, which is this one. It says drag over the shapes to their correct side. So closed shapes and open shapes. And if you get confused, down here, it says, how can you tell if a shape is closed? It starts and ends at the same point. The lines or curved paths are connected with no opening. So in order to do this, you're going to click on a shape you want to move. So each of these shapes, you're able to click on them. So let's just say we want to move this shape. We would click, hold down, and drag it over to the side that we want it to go to. Now you're going to do this for all of these shapes. Each of these shapes you're able to click. And then once all of the shapes are on the side that you feel like they belong in, you can move on to the next slide. This next slide is your turn. So it says follow the directions to answer the following questions. For these four, it says circle the word that describes the shape. So up here, we see these circles. You're going to click, then it allows you to drag it over. So there's 4 circles here for 4 questions. So if we wanted to drag them over, we are able to, and then once you are done answering these 4, it says for the next 4, type on the line if the shape is opened or closed. So on here, we are able to answer these questions by clicking, double-clicking, and then typing. So type on the line if the shape is opened or closed. If I think this shape is open, I would just put open. You can do that for all of these. On this side, it says follow the directions to answer the following questions. Write on the line how many line segments you think each shape has. So the same, you would click and then type in your answer for these 4. Now this last question says, Brittany says there are 2 endpoints in this shape shown at the right. Is she correct? Explain. So if you need to go back to the vocabulary to see what an endpoint looks like, you are more than welcome to. And then to answer this, you're going to click, highlight, and then type in your answer. Lastly, we have the end of lesson reflection. So this is the same question that we used for the do now. Now it says, look back at how you described this shape at the beginning of the lesson. Add more detail to how you would describe this shape now. Think back to all of the vocabulary words we went over. So the same thing, you're going to highlight, you're going to click, highlight, and then type your answer. So this is actually the end of lesson 12.1. If you have any questions, you can ask your teacher for help, and I hope you enjoyed this lesson.